Son kicked his poor mother out years later. He regretted everything. The night his mother cried quietly in the kitchen, he stood behind his bedroom door and did nothing. Years later, that silence would scream louder than any argument they ever had. At that moment, he told himself he was tired, busy, and not responsible for her tears. His name was Daniel. He was 28 tall and already tired of life. He worked long hours at a small electronics store in the city. The pay was low, the customers were rude, and his dreams felt far away. Every night he came home to the same small apartment with peeling paint and flickering lights. And every night his mother waited for him. Maria was old before her time. Her back was bent from years of cleaning other people's houses. Her hands were rough and cracked. Her hair, once thick and black, was now thin and gray. She cooked simple meals: rice, soup, sometimes eggs. She always saved the best part for her son. When Daniel entered the apartment, Maria stood up fast, even when her knees hurt. "You're home," she said softly. "I kept the soup warm." Daniel did not smile. He dropped his bag on the floor and loosened his tie. Again he said, "Soup every night." Maria looked down. "It's cheap, and it fills the stomach." Daniel sat at the table and scrolled on his phone. He ate without looking at her. The silence grew heavy. Maria watched him, her eyes full of things she did not say. She wanted to ask if he was happy. She wanted to tell him she was proud. But she had learned that too many words made him angry. They had not always been like this. When Daniel was a child, Maria worked 3 jobs. She skipped meals so he could eat. She wore old clothes so he could have new shoes for school. At night, she held him when he had nightmares. She told him again and again, "I am here. Always." Now they lived together, but they felt like strangers. "Your aunt called," Maria said carefully. "She asked if you might visit sometime." Daniel sighed hard. "I don't have time for that. I'm not like you people anymore." The words slipped out sharp and careless. Maria flinched. "I didn't mean I know what you mean," Daniel said, standing up. "Everything is always about family, family, family. I have my own life. What would you do if the person who loved you most became a burden?" Maria cleaned the dishes with slow hands. Water dripped onto the floor. She wiped it quickly, afraid he would notice. Her chest felt tight, but she told herself to be strong. She always did. Later that night, Daniel lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The apartment smelled like old food and cleaning soap. He felt trapped, ashamed, angry. Why does her presence make him feel small? From the kitchen came a quiet sound. Maria was crying, trying to keep it silent. Daniel turned his face to the wall. Tomorrow, he thought, something has to change. And deep inside him, a dark idea began to take shape. Morning came with the sound of traffic and a weak sun through dusty windows. Maria woke up before dawn as always. Her body ached the moment she opened her eyes. Her knees felt stiff. Her fingers felt swollen. But she sat up anyway because the day would not wait for her pain. She moved quietly so Daniel could sleep. The apartment was small, so every sound mattered. The floorboards creaked near his room. She stepped around the loud spots, memorizing them like a map. In the kitchen, she boiled water and made instant coffee. Not for herself, for Daniel. She did not like coffee, but he did. She placed his cup near the edge of the table like a small gift. Then she opened the cupboard. It was nearly empty. A bag of rice, half a bottle of oil, some salt, and 2 eggs. She stared at the eggs for a moment. 2 eggs meant 1 breakfast for Daniel, none for her. She cracked them into a pan, added a little salt, and cooked them gently. She cut the omelet into 2 pieces, then pushed them back together on the plate so it looked like 1 full meal. When the food was ready, she sat down for 1 minute. Her hands rested on the table. The skin on her knuckles was dry and dark. She looked at the small kitchen clock. It was almost 6. Maria stood up again. She took her cleaning bag from behind the door. Inside were old rags, a bottle of cheap cleaner, and gloves with holes. She worked 3 days a week now. She used to work 6, but her body could not do it anymore. Even 3 days felt like a mountain. Before leaving, she wrote a small note and placed it near Daniel's coffee. "Good morning, my son. Eat before work. Be safe." She stared at the note, then added one more line. "I love you." She left the apartment quietly and walked down the stairs. The elevator was broken again. It was always broken. Outside, the air was cold. She pulled her thin sweater tighter. Her shoes were old, the soles worn down. She walked to the bus stop and waited among strangers. Everyone looked tired. Everyone looked like they were carrying something heavy inside. On the bus, Maria held the pole and tried not to sway too much. Her balance was not good these days. She watched the city pass by. Clean buildings, bright signs, people in nice clothes. Sometimes she wondered what it would feel like to live without counting coins. At the house she cleaned, the gate was tall and shiny. A security guard nodded at her but did not smile. Inside, the floors were so clean they reflected the light. Maria's job was to make them even cleaner. She scrubbed bathrooms until her back burned. She wiped glass until her shoulders shook. She climbed stairs again and again, carrying laundry baskets heavier than her own body. The owners were kind in a distant way. They did not shout. They did not hit. But they also did not see her as a person. She was just a pair of hands. Around noon, she sat on the back steps and ate a small piece of bread she had brought from home. It was dry. She chewed slowly, saving each bite. A young woman from the house came out and said, "Maria, can you stay an extra hour today? We have guests tonight." Maria wanted to say no. Her legs already felt weak, but she thought of Daniel, of rent, of electricity, of the shame in his eyes when he looked at their home. "Yes," she said softly, "I can." When she finally returned home in the late afternoon, her hands trembled from tiredness. She opened the door and stepped inside. The apartment was quiet. Daniel was still at work. She breathed out in relief. Quiet was easier than tension. She cleaned their small place too, even though it was already clean. It made her feel useful. Then she began dinner. Rice again and a simple soup with vegetables. She cut the vegetables into tiny pieces so it would look like more. When Daniel came home, his footsteps were heavy and fast. Maria straightened her back even though it hurt. "You're home," she said. "Dinner's ready." Daniel didn't answer. He dropped his keys in the bowl and frowned at the table. "Rice and soup," he said like it was an insult. Maria swallowed. "We can buy chicken next week. When I get paid." Daniel laughed once without humor. "Next week. Always next week." He sat down, ate a few bites, then pushed the bowl away. "I can't live like this anymore," he said. Maria froze. "What do you mean, I mean?" "I'm stuck," Daniel snapped. "I'm almost 30. I should be living in a better place. I should be driving a car. I should be, I don't know, someone." Maria's eyes softened. "You are someone. You are my son." Daniel looked at her like those words meant nothing. "Don't," he said. "Don't say that. That's the problem. You make everything about being a son, about being grateful. But gratitude doesn't pay bills." Maria felt her throat tighten. "I never asked you to pay my bills. I work." "Work," Daniel pointed at her cleaning bag by the door. "That job barely pays anything, and you're getting older. What happens when you can't work at all? Then would I become your nurse? Your servant?" The word servant hit Maria like a slap. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. "I am not asking you to serve me," she whispered. "I only want to live with you. I only want to be close." Daniel stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor. "Close," he shouted. "I don't even bring friends home because of this place." "Because of you?" Maria's face went pale. "Because of me," she repeated like she could not understand. Daniel's eyes were hard. "Yes, you're always here, always watching, always waiting. It's like I can't breathe." Maria wanted to speak, but no words came out. She thought of all the nights she stayed awake when he was sick as a child, all the buses she took, all the floors she scrubbed, all the meals she skipped. She thought of the way she used to tell herself, "It's okay. One day he will smile again. Now she looked at him and she could not find that boy anymore. She forced herself to stand. I will give you space, she said. I can stay in my room. I can. No, Daniel said, shaking his head. It's not enough. He rubbed his face with both hands like he was trying to wipe away his own thoughts. Then he said it slowly and clearly, like he had been practicing it in his mind for days. You're holding me back. Maria stared at him. Her mouth opened slightly. Daniel's voice lowered, but it was colder now. I got a chance at a better job. A friend from school. He said he can recommend me, but he asked where I live, and I lied. Maria's heart sank. Why would you lie? Because I'm ashamed, Daniel said. Because I don't want them to see this. To see you. Maria's eyes filled with tears, but she did not let them fall. She held them back the way she always did. So what will you do? She asked, barely able to speak. Daniel looked away toward the small hallway, toward her little room, toward the proof that she existed. I don't know, he said, but something has to change soon. That night, Maria lay on her thin mattress and stared at the ceiling. She listened to Daniel moving around in his room, opening drawers, closing them hard. He was restless. In the dark, she whispered a small prayer, not for herself, but for him. Please, she said, voice shaking, don't let him hate me. In the next room, Daniel sat on his bed with his phone in his hand. A message from his friend was on the screen. Big opportunity, but you need to look professional. Life is about image, bro. Daniel stared at that line for a long time. Then he looked at the wall between him and his mother. His jaw tightened. In his mind, she was no longer a person with pain and love. She was a weight, a shadow, an obstacle. And the next morning, he would begin to treat her that way. The change did not happen all at once. It came in small steps, quiet and almost invisible at first. Daniel got the new job 2 weeks later. It was not a big position, but it paid more than the store. An office job, a desk, air conditioning, a badge with his name printed clearly on it. On his first day, he wore a new shirt and borrowed shoes from a friend. He looked at himself in the mirror and felt something new in his chest. Pride. For the first time in years, he did not feel small. Maria watched him from the kitchen. You look handsome, she said, smiling gently. Daniel nodded but did not answer. He adjusted his collar again. I might come home late, he said. There are meetings. I will keep dinner warm, Maria replied. He paused for a second, then said, You don't have to. The door closed behind him before she could respond. Daniel's new life moved fast. He learned how to speak with confidence. He learned how to dress better. He learned how to laugh at the right moments. His co-workers talked about travel, restaurants, and weekend plans. Daniel listened and nodded. He never talked about his mother. He never talked about home. At lunch, they ate in clean places with white tables and music in the background. Daniel felt out of place at first, but the feeling faded. Each day, he felt more like he belonged there and less like he belonged anywhere else. At home, Maria's world became smaller. She stopped working one of her cleaning jobs because her hands could not handle it anymore. The pain in her joints grew worse. Some mornings she could not close her fingers. She wrapped them in old cloth and went on with her day. She spent more time alone. Daniel came home late often after she had already eaten. When he did eat with her, he was distracted. His phone stayed in his hand. His eyes stayed on the screen. One evening, Maria placed a small envelope next to his plate. What is this? Daniel asked. My pay, she said. For this week. Maybe it can help. Daniel looked inside. The amount was small, very small. He felt a sudden rush of anger, sharp and hot. This, he said loudly. This is nothing. It's all I have, Maria replied quietly. Daniel pushed the envelope back to her. Keep it. I don't want it. Maria's hand shook as she took it. I only wanted to help. I don't need your help, Daniel said. I need you to stop pretending this is enough. She nodded even though his words hurt more than he knew. As the months passed, Daniel's life improved. He moved to a better position. He started saving money. He bought new clothes, then a new phone. He even talked about renting a better apartment one day. But every time he looked at Maria, he felt something dark rise inside him. She looked weaker, slower, older. She reminded him of everything he wanted to leave behind. One night he came home with a smile on his face. He had been invited to a work dinner, a real restaurant. His manager would be there. "I need to bring someone," he said casually. "Everyone else is." Maria looked up, hope lighting her face. "I can come," she said quickly. "I will wear my good dress." Daniel's smile disappeared. "No," he said, "not you." The silence that followed was heavy. "Oh," Maria said softly. "I understand." She did not understand, but she pretended she did. "I can ask," my friend Daniel continued. "Or maybe I'll just go alone." He left without another word. That night, Maria sat at the table long after the food had gone cold. She touched the edge of her plate and tried to remember when she last felt truly needed. Weeks later, Daniel finally said what he had been thinking. "I found a place," he announced one evening. Maria looked up. "A new apartment. Yes, closer to work. Cleaner. Better." Her heart beat faster. "That's wonderful," she said. "When do we move?" Daniel did not answer right away. He stared at the wall. "I mean, I move," he said. "It's a studio. Just one room?" Maria felt the air leave her lungs. "Oh, it's temporary," Daniel added quickly. "Just until things settle." She nodded slowly. Of course, but she knew. She knew this was not just about space. "And what about me?" she asked, forcing the question out. Daniel sighed. "I don't know yet." That night, Maria packed some of his old clothes, folded them carefully, and placed them in a bag. She washed his favorite shirt and hung it to dry. She moved quietly like she was already a guest in her own home. Daniel watched her from the doorway. For a brief moment, he felt something like guilt. But then his phone buzzed with a message from work, and the feeling disappeared. The final push came one rainy afternoon. Daniel came home early and found Maria sitting on the floor. She had fallen while cleaning. Her leg was twisted awkwardly. Her face was pale. "I can't stand," she said, trying to smile through the pain. Just for a moment. Daniel froze. He looked at her on the floor, at the cleaning cloth beside her, at the small apartment around them. Something inside him snapped. "This is what my life will become," he thought. "This is my future if I don't act." He helped her up, but his movements were rough. He did not ask if she was hurt badly. He did not offer comfort. That night he did not sleep. In the dark, he made a decision. And once the thought fully formed in his mind, he felt a strange sense of relief. Tomorrow he would end this. The morning was quiet, too quiet. Rain tapped softly against the window. The sky was gray heavy, like it was holding its breath. Maria woke early again. Her legs still hurt from the fall, but she did not complain. Pain had become a normal part of her life. She moved slowly, careful with every step. When she reached the kitchen, she noticed Daniel was already awake. He was sitting at the table, fully dressed. His jacket was on. His bag was by the door. "You're up early," Maria said, trying to sound normal. Daniel did not look at her. "Sit down," he said. Her heart tightened. She wiped her hands on her apron and sat across from him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. Each second felt heavy. "I'm moving out today," Daniel said finally. Maria nodded. "You told me." "I'm moving out today," he repeated slower this time. "Alone." She swallowed. "I understand." "No," Daniel said, his voice sharp. "I don't think you do." He stood up and began to pace the small kitchen. His footsteps were fast and restless. "This can't go on anymore," he said. "I can't live like this. I can't keep worrying about you, about money, about your health." Maria looked down at her hands. "I never wanted to be a worry." "But you are," Daniel snapped. "Every day." She lifted her eyes to him. "I can try to find another job, or maybe stay with your aunt for a while." "No," he interrupted. "That's not the point." He stopped pacing and faced her. I need my own life, he said. I need space. Freedom. Maria nodded again slowly. Then you should take it. I don't want to stop you. Daniel's jaw tightened. You don't listen. What do you want me to hear? She asked. He hesitated. For a second, doubt crossed his face. But then the words came out hard and unforgiving. You need to leave. Maria stared at him. Leave, yes, he said. This apartment. Today. The room felt suddenly smaller. The air felt thin. But this is our home, she whispered. It's my lease, Daniel replied. I pay most of it now. Maria's hands trembled. Where will I go? Daniel looked away. That's not my problem anymore. The words fell between them like broken glass. Maria stood up slowly, holding the edge of the table for support. I carried you for 9 months, she said quietly. I fed you when I had nothing. I worked until my body broke. I never thought stop, Daniel shouted. Stop bringing up the past. I didn't ask for that. She flinched. I never said you did, she replied softly. I only thought it mattered. Daniel grabbed his keys from the table. His hands were shaking, but his voice stayed cold. I can't do this anymore, he said. I don't want to come home and see you like this. Weak. Dependent. Maria felt tears rise, but she forced herself to stay calm. I am still your mother, she said. He laughed bitterly. That doesn't mean you get to ruin my life. Those words broke something inside her. She walked slowly to her small room. Daniel followed, standing in the doorway. He watched as she opened her old suitcase. It was scratched and faded like her. She folded her clothes carefully. Each movement was slow and painful. Not just for her body, but for her heart. She picked up a framed photo from the shelf. It showed Daniel as a child, smiling with missing teeth, his arm around her neck. She touched the glass with her thumb. Do you remember this day? She asked. Daniel looked away. Just pack your things. She placed the photo in the suitcase. When she finished, she closed it gently. There was not much inside. A few clothes, some papers, the photo. She stood there waiting. Daniel opened the front door. I'll call you a taxi, he said. You can go wherever you want. Maria walked past him. At the door, she stopped. I don't hate you, she said quietly. Even now. Daniel said nothing. She stepped outside into the rain. The cold air hit her face. She pulled her sweater tighter around herself. Daniel watched from the doorway as she walked down the stairs, one slow step at a time. He did not help her. He did not follow. When she reached the bottom, she turned back once. Just once. Their eyes met. Maria smiled faintly, like she was trying to comfort him. Then she turned and walked away. The door closed behind Daniel with a soft click. He leaned against it and let out a long breath. It's done, he whispered to himself. Outside, Maria stood under the gray sky, holding her old suitcase. Cars passed by without slowing. People hurried past without looking. She was alone, and Daniel believed he had finally solved his problem. 5 years passed. Daniel lived in a high-rise apartment with clean white walls and large windows. The city looked small from up there. At night, lights stretched out like stars on the ground. He owned good furniture now. A soft couch, a glass table, a large TV he barely watched. He had done well. Better than he ever imagined. He worked as a project manager at a growing company. People listened when he spoke. They used his ideas. His name was on important emails. He wore expensive suits and nice watches. He drove a car that still smelled new inside. From the outside, his life looked complete, but his apartment was always quiet. Too quiet. In the mornings, he made coffee for one. No notes waited on the table. No warm food. No gentle voice saying, "Be safe." At first, the silence felt like freedom. He could wake when he wanted, eat what he wanted, come home whenever he wanted. No one asked questions. No one needed him. But slowly the silence changed. It began to feel heavy. Some nights Daniel came home late, and stood in the doorway listening without knowing why. The apartment never answered him. He turned on lights he did not need. He let the TV play in the background just to hear a voice. At work, he laughed easily. He joined conversations. He talked about plans and goals. But when coworkers spoke about family dinners or visits home, he stayed quiet. He told himself he was too busy, too important now. Still, certain things followed him. One evening on his way home, Daniel stopped at a traffic light. An old woman crossed the street slowly in front of his car. She wore a thin coat and carried a heavy bag. Her back was bent. Her steps were careful. For a moment, Daniel's chest tightened. She looked like Maria. He shook his head and looked away. The light turned green. He drove on, annoyed with himself. Another time, he walked past a small grocery store near his apartment. An old song played from inside. It was soft and slow, a song his mother used to hum while cooking. His feet stopped without asking him. He stood there for a few seconds, frozen on the sidewalk. His throat felt dry. Then he forced himself to move. "Get over it," he muttered. He told himself she was fine. She had family. She was strong. She always landed on her feet. He never called her. At first it was because he was angry, then because it felt awkward, later because he was afraid. Afraid she would sound weak, afraid she would ask for help, afraid he would feel something he did not want to feel. Years passed and the fear settled into him like dust. One Sunday afternoon, Daniel attended a coworker's housewarming party. The apartment was warm and full of noise. People laughed, children ran between rooms. Food covered the table. In the corner, an older woman served drinks. She smiled proudly at the guests. "That's my mom," his coworker said. "She came to stay with us for a few weeks." Daniel nodded politely. The woman handed him a glass and said, "Eat more. You're too thin." Her voice was kind, familiar. Daniel smiled stiffly and walked away. His chest felt tight again. He left the party early. That night he sat alone on his couch and stared at his phone. His contacts list was long. Names from work, friends, old classmates. He scrolled. He stopped. Maria. The number was still there. He had never deleted it. His thumb hovered over the screen. He imagined her voice. Softer now, maybe weaker. He imagined her asking, "Are you eating well?" like nothing had happened. The thought made his stomach twist. He locked the phone and placed it face down on the table. "I'll call another day," he said out loud. But another day never came. His success continued. Promotions, praise, more money. But his sleep grew worse. Some nights he dreamed of the old apartment, of peeling paint, of a small kitchen, of someone standing behind him waiting. He would wake up with his heart racing, the echo of her footsteps still in his ears. On his 40th birthday, Daniel sat alone in a restaurant. A waiter placed a small cake in front of him and said, "Happy birthday, sir." Daniel thanked him. He stared at the candle for a long time before blowing it out. That night as he walked home, his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. He was tired of calls, but something made him answer. "Hello," he said. There was a pause, then a woman's voice spoke. "Is this Daniel?" "Yes," he replied. "Who is this?" "My name is Elena," the woman said gently. "I'm calling about Maria." Daniel's breath caught. "My mother?" he asked. "Yes," Elena said. "I'm her neighbor." Or I was. A cold feeling spread through Daniel's body. "Is she okay?" he asked quickly. There was another pause, a longer one this time. "I'm sorry," Elena said. "I didn't know how else to reach you." Daniel gripped the phone harder. "What happened?" he asked. Outside, the city kept moving. Cars passed. People laughed nearby. Daniel stood still, his heart pounding. "I think," Elena said softly, "you should come." And in that moment, Daniel understood something he had been avoiding for years. The past had not forgotten him, and it was finally knocking on his door. Daniel did not remember how he got home that night. He only remembered sitting on the edge of his bed, still wearing his coat, the phone lying silent in his hand. I think you should come. Those words repeated in his head again and again. He did not sleep. When morning came, he called in sick for the first time in years. His voice sounded strange, even to himself. Empty. Far away. He booked a train ticket to the old part of the city where Maria used to live. He had not been there since the day he closed the door behind her. As the train moved forward, his hands shook slightly. He told himself to stay calm. Maybe she was sick. Maybe she needed help. Maybe it was not too late. But deep inside, he already knew. The neighborhood looked smaller than he remembered. Older. The buildings were tired, like they had given up trying to look new. Daniel walked slowly, pulling his coat tighter. Each step felt heavier than the last. He stopped in front of a small, worn building. Elena was waiting outside. She was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a serious face. "You're Daniel," she said. He nodded. His mouth felt dry. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I'm sorry it had to be like this." "Where is she?" Daniel asked. "Is she inside?" Elena looked at him for a long moment. Then she shook her head gently. "She passed away 3 months ago." The words hit him hard. Too hard. The world tilted for a second. "No," Daniel said. "No, that's not possible." Elena did not argue. She only spoke softly. She was sick for a long time. She didn't tell many people. Daniel felt his chest tighten. "Why didn't anyone call me Elena?" Hesitated. "She didn't want us to." Daniel laughed once, sharp and broken. "That sounds like her." They walked inside the building. The hallway smelled old, familiar. Daniel's legs felt weak. Elena stopped in front of a small door. This was her room, she said. Daniel pushed the door open. The room was tiny, smaller than the one she had in the old apartment. A narrow bed, a small table, one chair, a single window that let in very little light. On the table sat a framed photo. Daniel as a child, smiling, his arm around Maria's neck. His knees nearly gave out. "She kept that with her, always," Elena said. "She talked about you a lot." Daniel stepped inside slowly. His eyes moved across the room, searching for something. For her, for proof that she had been real. What happened to her?" he asked. Elena sat on the chair and folded her hands. "After she left your place, she stayed at a shelter for a while. Then she found this room. She cleaned offices at night when she could. During the day, she rested." Daniel closed his eyes. Images filled his mind. His mother alone, in pain, carrying her old suitcase, waiting in lines, sleeping among strangers. His stomach turned. "She got sick," Elena continued. "Her lungs, then her heart. The doctor said she needed rest, medicine. She did what she could." Daniel's voice was barely a whisper. "Was she scared?" Elena smiled sadly. She was tired, very tired, but she was peaceful in a way. She said she had lived for her son, and that was enough. Daniel pressed his hand to his mouth. His chest burned. "She never blamed you," Elena said. "Not once." That broke him. Daniel dropped to his knees beside the bed. His shoulders shook as the sound finally came out of him. Deep, broken sobs. The kind that come from a place too painful for words. "I sent her away," he said through tears. "I told her she was ruining my life." Elena said nothing. She let him cry. After a while, she stood and opened a small drawer. "There's something you should see," she said. Inside was a thin notebook, old, worn. She wrote in it sometimes, Elena explained, mostly at night. Daniel took the notebook with shaking hands. He opened it. The handwriting was careful and slow. Daniel looked tired today. "I hope he is eating well. His job must be very hard. I pray for him every night. I miss his voice. Page after page, the same love, the same concern. Never anger, never blame." Near the end, the writing grew shakier. "My body is weaker now. If I sleep and do not wake, I hope Daniel will forgive himself. I hope he will be happy. Daniel pressed the notebook to his chest and cried again harder than before. Forgive himself. The funeral had been small. A few neighbors, no family, no son. Daniel stood at her grave later that day. The sky was gray just like the day she left him. He knelt and touched the cold stone. I'm sorry, he said again and again. I'm so sorry. But no answer came. That night in his hotel room, Daniel sat on the floor with the notebook in his hands. The room was dark, silent. He saw every moment clearly now, every chance he had to stop, to turn back, to open the door. He had chosen comfort over kindness, pride over love, and now there was nothing he could do. Some mistakes, he understood, do not wait for forgiveness. They stay forever. And Daniel would carry this one for the rest of his life. Grief did not leave Daniel after the funeral. It followed him home. His apartment felt different now. The walls seemed colder. The silence felt louder. He stopped turning on the TV. Noise did not help anymore. He took time off work. Days passed without meaning. Morning and night blended together. Sometimes he sat on the edge of his bed for hours staring at nothing. He dreamed of Maria often. In his dreams, she stood in the kitchen cooking soup. She turned and smiled when she saw him. You're home, she said. He always woke up before he could answer. Daniel visited her grave every week. He brought flowers even when his hands shook from the cold. He cleaned the stone carefully like he was afraid to hurt it. I should have been here, he whispered one day. I should have taken care of you. The wind did not reply. One afternoon as he left the cemetery, he saw an elderly man struggling to carry bags near the gate. The man dropped one, and fruit rolled across the ground. Daniel stopped. For a moment he hesitated. His chest tightened. The old fear rose again. Then he stepped forward. Let me help you, Daniel said. The man looked up surprised. Thank you, he replied. Daniel picked up the bags and walked with him to a nearby bench. The man smiled and said, My son lives far away. He's busy. Daniel nodded, unable to speak. After that day, he began to notice people he had ignored before. An old woman waiting too long for the bus. A tired cleaner sitting alone during lunch. A man sleeping on a bench with no one to speak to. He did not save them. He did not fix their lives. He only did small things. He bought meals. He listened. He helped carry bags. Sometimes he stayed longer than needed just to make sure they were not alone. He found a local shelter and started volunteering on weekends. At first he worked quietly. He washed dishes. He cleaned floors. The same kind of work Maria had done all her life. His hands grew sore. His back ached. He welcomed the pain. One evening he met a woman about Maria's age. She smiled warmly and said, You're kind to be here. Daniel looked down. I wasn't always. The woman nodded like she understood. At home, Daniel framed one of Maria's notes, the one that said, I love you. He placed it on his desk where he could see it every morning. He did not forgive himself fully. He knew he never would. But slowly something inside him softened. He spoke less at work. He listened more. He stopped chasing things that did not matter. On his birthday the next year, Daniel did not go out. He cooked soup at home. Simple, warm. He set 2 bowls on the table. Then he removed one. He ate quietly, thinking of her. The pain did not disappear. It became part of him, but it no longer controlled him. One evening as he walked home from the shelter, he looked up at the city lights. They no longer impressed him. What mattered now was smaller. A kind word, a shared moment, a choice to stay. And for the first time in many years, Daniel felt something close to peace. Daniel never stopped missing his mother. Some days were easier. Others came without warning and hurt just as deeply as the first. A smell, a song, a woman's laugh on the street. Any small thing could pull him back. He kept living. He worked, but work was no longer the center of his life. He spent his free time at the shelter. He learned people's names. He listened to their stories. He sat with them when they felt invisible. When someone thanked him, he always shook his head. "I'm just doing what I should have done long ago," he said. Years passed. His hair showed lines of gray now. His face looked softer, older, more honest. On quiet evenings, he still visited Maria's grave. He brought fresh flowers and cleaned the stone. He talked to her even though he knew she would not answer. "I hope you'd be proud of me," he said one night. "I'm trying." The wind moved gently through the trees. Daniel stood there for a long time, then turned to leave. As he walked away, he did not feel empty. He felt human. Time never gave him another chance with his mother. That door stayed closed, but it gave him something else, the chance to choose kindness. Every day, the chance to remember that love should never be delayed. Parents do not ask for much. Often they only ask to stay. And when time takes them away, all that remains is what we chose to do when we still had the chance. Daniel walked home under the evening sky, carrying regret in his heart, but also a quiet promise to never turn away again.